Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're jumping right into a really fascinating idea from our source material. Ancient rulers, right? They didn't just want to be kings. They actually engineered their way into becoming literal living gods. We're not just talking about getting a bigger throne or wearing a fancier hat here. It was this deliberate, almost scientific manipulation of human psychology and biology to guarantee absolute survival and power. Let's get right into it. To really set the stage for this, I want you to ask yourself, what did it actually take to become a living god on Earth? Just think about the sheer audacity of that claim for a second. You're not just passing laws or collecting taxes anymore. You are literally claiming dominion over reality itself. And getting millions of people to genuinely buy into this? Well, it wasn't an accident. It required highly specific conditions and, honestly, a masterful understanding of human belief.
Let's dive into a highly specific example from ancient Egypt. It's this concept called the living royal K. Now, this wasn't just some symbolic blessing or a neat little title to slap on a stone monument. The K was understood as a literal, tangible, divine spirit. When an emperor received it, the people fully believed he physically metamorphosed right into a god. It was like a complete biological rewiring of his existence. He wasn't just a guy in charge anymore. He was a walking, breathing deity. You can see how this represents a massive paradigm shift. Think about a mortal ruler. They govern, they wear a crown made of metal, and, they make mistakes that you can disagree with. But a god king? Because they possess that divine spirit, arguing with them is literally like trying to argue with a thunderstorm or a sunrise. Their authority is absolute. The crown is just an accessory at that point, because the living royal K is basically the authority of the universe wrapped up in a human body. Global mandates and trials. Now, what's really striking in the source material is that this Egyptian concept was definitely not an isolated phenomenon. Across completely disconnected oceans and continents, entirely different civilizations independently realized the exact same thing. Ultimate stability required elevating your leadership from the political realm straight into the divine. When we cross-compare three distinct empires, China, the Sapa Inca, and Byzantium, this undeniable universal pattern starts to emerge. They didn't just demand worship out of nowhere. They relied on deeply embedded cultural mechanisms to prove their divine right to rule. We're talking about three entirely different geographies and eras here, yet they all somehow figured out the exact same psychological cheat code to secure absolute devotion. So while the actual executions varied wildly, the core psychological goal was identical. In China, you needed the mandate of heaven. That was this cosmic nod of approval that, inconveniently for some emperors, could actually be revoked. Then you have the Sapa Inca, who had to endure intense moral trials to prove they had superhuman fortitude. And over in Byzantium, divine right was established through these incredibly elaborate religious performances. Totally different methods, but the exact same goal, making the ruler utterly untouchable. The Byzantine shift. Let's actually look a bit closer at the Byzantine Empire for a second, because this is where all that mystical belief transitions into highly calculated institutional pageantry. The sources use a very, very revealing word here, performances. That single word kind of changes everything, doesn't it? A performance means you have a script, you have actors, and most importantly, you have an audience. The Byzantine emperors weren't just passively glowing with divine energy. They were actively putting on a masterclass in theatrical propaganda to keep the public in awe. It was a highly produced show entirely designed to keep the empire running smoothly. The biology of leadership. Underneath all the magic of the Ka, the brutal moral trials, and the theatrical performances, the sources reveal a really undeniable reality. An emperor's rule wasn't just spiritually tied to the heavens. It was inextricably, scientifically tied to the dirt right here on Earth. It essentially operates as this ruthless environmental loop. Step 1, you claim divine power. Step 2 is the real test, actually managing natural disasters like unpredictable Nile floods or severe droughts. If the crops grow and the people survive, you finally reach step 3. Your divine rule is biologically validated. The magic was only considered real if the harvest was real. This directly juxtaposes the high-minded myth against the cold, hard science. You can claim heaven's mandate and boast about your divine spirit all day long, but if you fail to manage a drought, none of that pageantry matters. Failing to secure the biological survival of your people literally meant losing your god status. The mandate wasn't revoked by the heavens, it was revoked by a lack of rain. That is a lot of pressure. You're a god until the crops fail, and then suddenly, you're just a very unpopular mortal. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. are our modern systems of leadership really that far removed from this biology of belief? When we judge today's leaders by how they manage natural disasters, pandemics, or economic crises, aren't we kind of still relying on the exact same biology of survival? Strip away the modern terminology and ask yourself, who are the God Kings of today? Thanks for exploring this explainer with me, and keep questioning the systems around you.